Destiny 2's raid Crown of Sorrows has recently been revealed to the public, and after looking at its complicated mechanics, I've come to the realization that I'm never gonna play it. While raiding has been something I have barely done in Destiny 2, in Destiny 1 it was easily my favorite activity. I remember staying up into the late hours of the night with my friends, desperately trying to beat that one last boss. And as you can expect, things went really well.
Damn it, son of a fuck!
Raiding for a long time was the reason I played Destiny. That and because I had no life. The loot was amazing, sometimes. The environments were fun to explore, and the feeling of beating a boss after hours of trying was something I've never experienced playing a video game before. With that being said, I figured it would be a good idea to take a trip down memory lane and look back at the raid bosses in Destiny 1, explaining their story as well as ranking them from worst to best. While doing research for this video, I realized that some raid bosses have a lot of information known about them, and others have close to nothing. The ranking is just my personal opinion, so feel free to leave your own list down in the comments section. Even I go back and forth on these a little bit, so I wouldn't be surprised if other people's lists are completely different than mine. This list includes all bosses, not just the final ones, but it is not including encounters. In order to count, there needs to be a tangible enemy to riddle with Megalahorn. We ironically start this list with Destiny's first raid boss, the Templar. The Templar fight isn't bad, it's just not my fave. Too many times I've blown myself up during this fight. The reason I don't really like Templar is something I can't put my finger on. I just never really looked forward to doing the encounter. The best part of Templar was Fatebringer, but after I got that, I didn't really see the need to do it ever again. Also for the record, I like Vision of Confluence more than Fatebringer. Fight me. The Templar is an extremely powerful Vex Hydra found in the Vault of Glass. Unlike normal Aksis mines, the Templar is unique in it being a creature out of time and can thus manipulate reality in according to the Oracle's design. It, along with the Oracles, guards the way to the deeper sections of the vault. Nothing too exciting there. Next up on our list is Vosik the Archpriest. Vosik is the general of the Devil's Splicers and second in command to Aksis, Archon Prime. He has the intention of ascending to godhood the way Aksis has, but as seen in the raid, he is stopped before that happens. The first Vosik encounter is incredibly fun. Having everyone on your team throw little Nova Bombs is something I will not forget. Plus, I really like the look of the boss room with all the TVs. The reason why Vosik is lower on the list is because of some of his mechanics. Having drags get in the way of your throws could really get frustrating at times, and having to hit the button on the side of the door was glitchy and felt a little awkward or cheap. Not to mention, it was really difficult to time and understand when everyone should even throw the balls in the first place. It just felt inconsistent sometimes. Moving on to King's Fall, my personal favorite raid out of all of them. Just thought I might add that one in there. And we're talking about Golgoroth. Apart from having probably the coolest name of the bunch, Golgoroth's design is incredibly awesome. Traversing through his gloomy maze to end up in his bright lair was one of my favorite parts of the raid, feeling distinctly different from any other encounter. Golgoroth is a hive ogre, created by the worm god Zol, who appears in the Warmind expansion if you were wondering, with the purpose to devour Oryx, the Taken King, and his family. Oryx instead took Golgoroth and remade it with aid from another worm god into a new shape, becoming one of the most powerful members of his court. Later, when Oryx carved the Tablets of Ruin, he set one of them in Golgoroth as a rebuttal of Crota's demands to claim it. In my opinion, Golgoroth was the hardest encounter in the King's Fall raid. Unlike Oryx, which became pretty easy after getting the mechanics down, Golgoroth remained a challenging fight, as it required good communication, well-timed shots, and extreme damage output. Golgoroth remains for me one of the most, if not the most, claustrophobic, hectic, and extremely paced boss fights in Destiny. Next up, we're going back to Wrath of the Machine with Aksis, Archon Prime, or maybe forward, because it came out after King's Fall. Okay, I was really back and forth on whether to put Golgoroth in front of Aksis or not, but I don't know, I just kind of went with this. Once a disgraced machine priest, Aksis returned to his broken house after the recent loss of its Archon and Prime Servitor and claimed the title of Archon for himself. He does a lot of this claiming for himself stuff, as you'll see. Aksis ordered the Devils and the Splicers to find and pillage every Golden Age research lab they could find for anything that could aid them in their fight against the city. Their efforts proved fruitful as they had found Siva, a dangerous nanotechnology from the Golden Age, deep in the walled-off Plague Lands. Aksis was among those who believed that they could use Siva to become the machines they worshipped, instead of just finding another god to worship. Within the Siva server farm, Aksis modified himself with Siva extensively in the pursuit of godhood, to the point where he was more machine than fallen and had lost all need for ether. In his new ascended state, Aksis named himself Archon Prime, and began the mission to spread Siva to the rest of the Fallen and destroy the Guardians. Aksis was the most powerful Fallen to have ever existed. While the battle with Aksis himself definitely isn't my favorite, I do give a lot of points for the atmosphere and tone that was created. The path leading you to the Perfection Complex is my personal favorite environment in all of Destiny. While he isn't massive in size, I'm a big fan of the whole mechanical spider look Aksis has going on. Not to mention the loop of killing the captains, picking up the Scorch Cannon, and coordinating that with which servitor to destroy is a really fun mechanic, even though I'm colorblind and color-based things typically only spell trouble for me. And then after that, you get to throw a tiny Nova Bomb. And I love throwing me some tiny Nova Bombs. The only problem with this fight is jumping on his back. Much like Vosik, that mechanic can feel cheap as you can do everything correctly, time everything right, and then just fall off his arch back before you hold down square long enough and it ruins the whole thing. Coming in at number I don't even know is Atheon. In basic terms, Atheon times Conflux is a massive Vex Minotaur that oversees the Vault of Glass. Being the mind in charge of bridging the Vex's own calculations into existence, it is difficult to figure out what Atheon is exactly. Whether Atheon is the creator of the Vault, or the Vault's creation. What is clear is that Atheon has complete control over time within the Vault and converges multiple pathways from every axis in the space-time bulk, being able to send Guardians into the distant past or future at will. Atheon is the centerpiece of the Vex Conflux network, which extends the Nexus network across space and time as part of their plans to incorporate the Vex into reality itself. Lots of science fiction mumbo-jumbo there. And as the common theme here, these plans don't really work out. The Atheon encounter is held up by nostalgia. Do I think it's the best? Nope. But at the time, no one knew what a raid in a first-person shooter like Destiny was. The boss room alone that held Atheon was beautifully designed. For the record, everything in Destiny is pretty much designed better than most games. But still. Also, this could be a weird little thing, but Atheon has probably the most satisfying to hit crit spot out of any boss ever. I have no idea why that is. There's just something about it. After Atheon is the War Priest. The War Priest is one of the Taken King's most powerful champions in his court, having conquered 585 worlds from the time of the Golden Amputation to the fall of the Gift Mast. So, a long time basically. Utterly devoted to the principles of slaughter, victory, and to the Taken King himself, the War Priest offers Oryx his tribute in the challenge and slaying of Guardians, often in the appeasement for the worm's appetite within Oryx. He is encountered in the King's Fall raid in the Basilica and bars the way to Golgoroth's cellar. The War Priest is probably higher up on the list than people would expect. As we get closer to the end, the more biased we get for sure. I just have a lot of fond memories fighting the War Priest. The Taken King was the first time my friends and I all got together on the raid release day and went in blind trying to beat it all in one night. We only made it up to Golgoroth before it was 4 a.m. and time to get some sleep, but we were able to go in blind, figure out the mechanics, and beat the War Priest with no help from the internet. Not to mention, we got it all on video, and that video is still on this channel.
You gonna tether him, or?
He's gonna
hop
jump
in
in.
this black shit. You die! Woo!
Speaking of Kingsfall, coming in at number 2 is Oryx himself. This encounter is high up on the list for a lot of the same reasons the War Priest is high up. The nostalgia and fond memories give Oryx some brownie points. I will admit the mechanics of this fight get a little formulaic after a while, but a part of me likes that it has a sense of mastery of mechanics rather than pure DPS output. Sure, you don't complete the fight any faster as you get more powerful, which is a valid reason why some people have a gripe with it, but the scope of this battle was something we had never seen in Destiny at the time. All the other bosses were minuscule compared to Oryx. They didn't have a grand entrance that made people crap their pants. All the other Destiny bosses that came before him just kind of became these glittery mush particles when they were taken down. But Oryx's heart majestically exploded as he faded away into the abyss of space. It doesn't get much better and more satisfying than that. It was an epic and satisfying conclusion to an excellent DLC. And you guys probably already know this, but Oryx is the master of the Taken, reborn from the darkness itself through a wicked pact. Oryx is the founder of the Hive race, alongside his sisters and fellow deities, Savathun the Witch Queen and Xivu Arath, God of War. Not to be confused with Dad of Boy. Of all the Hive gods, he alone holds the power to bend other races to his will. Oryx is also the father of the dreaded Crota, a deadly Hive prince who slew thousands of guardians during the Great Disaster, and Nokris, his estranged second-born and herald of the worm god Zol. And now, to what I'm assuming is a lot of people's surprise. Maybe not. Is my personal favorite raid boss in Destiny, and that of course being the only one left, Crota. Crota is an ancient and powerful Hive prince who infamously wielded the Sword of Crota and killed countless guardians during the city's ill-fated campaign to reclaim the moon. Crota is the main antagonist in the Dark Below, in which the Hive seek to awaken him to lead their armies against humanity. And being real here, Crota is not the best boss in Destiny. His raid is far from the best. Being totally honest, of all the glitches and cheesiness and goofiness of that raid is one of the reasons why I had so much fun with it back in the day. When Destiny came out, I didn't have friends to play with, so Crota's End was my first raid, not Vault of Glass. With that being said, maybe you can see why this one is my favorite. It's less about the ins and outs of the mechanics and the fact if it functions properly or not, and more about having fun with your friends and making memories. At the end of the day, that's why I play Destiny. And sword bearing is freaking awesome, can't forget about that. And Gjallarhorn. Zero correlation there, I just like Gjallarhorn. But guys, that is gonna do it for this video. In the comments, leave your own lists. What's your favorite raid encounter and why? If you enjoyed this video, if you could please leave a like. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.